Results are in from the first primary since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. A Trump-supported Republican won in the primary for Illinois governor, while in Colorado's Senate primary, a Republican who supports abortion rights won out. For more on the midterms, Zaccaro and Lauren Zelt join me now. Ray is Democratic strategist and principal at the Klein Group, and Lauren is Republican strategist as well as the founder and CEO of Zelt Communications. Great to have you both with us. I appreciate your time. Ray, I want to start with you because there was really some fascinating data released by the Associated Press that reports that over 1 million voters switched to the Republican Party last year across 43 states. So what's your take on why Democrats are losing prospective voters?
Well, Caitlin, thanks so much for having me on again. And I will tell you, look, anybody who's worked on any elections, and I've had worked on my share, will tell you that voter registration is not the best determining factor, of voter turnout or how voters are going to ultimately vote. What I will say is this: Democrats consistently worry every election cycle about what's going to happen with suburban women and how they're going to vote and turn out. Well, if ever there was an issue to motivate suburban women and their daughters and their mothers and their sisters and their families to turn out, it is the reproductive health crisis that is on the line in this election like it has never been before.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating dynamic, and I definitely want to ask you both a little bit about that in a minute. Lauren, I do want to ask a little bit about this AP data, because kind of going back to it, it shows that these suburban voters that you're talking about, they're behind the bulk of this shift that we've seen among Republicans. What do you think has led to this? Because in 2018, we saw suburban Republican women especially turn over to the Democrats. Now we're starting to see maybe some questions about whether they're turning over to Republicans this time around. What's behind that?
It's very simple what's behind that, and that is the state of our economy today. Unfortunately, we are seeing skyrocketing inflation that is affecting every single aspect of American life. And mothers and women are often the heads of the household in terms of making sure the bills are paid, doing the grocery shopping, making sure that the car insurance is up to date and all of that. And unfortunately, those prices are much higher than we saw not even a year ago, but especially since the beginning of the Biden administration. And so the switch to Republican, especially in the suburbs, is a direct result of the economic issues that we're facing right now, the fears of a coming recession, and questions that families have about how they're going to get through the next week, the next month, and the next year.
Yeah, those women being heads of household, and also we've seen women have to leave the workforce after the pandemic. Ray, I want to go back to what you were just mentioning, and whether these suburban women voters in particular might be motivated by the abortion rights issue. I found it was really interesting that Vice President Kamala Harris, in an interview with NPR, she said that the midterms are going to be vital, getting a law through Congress to codify abortion rights with Roe overturned. Biden says Roe is on the ballot. But, Democrats had a supermajority once upon a time, and they didn't shore up abortion rights then. How can voters, Democratic voters, kind of believe what Democrats are saying when they're saying, hey, you need to show up and vote in elections, and they really haven't had much to show for it on that front? What's different now?
Well, I would argue that that's not the case. When Democrats had a supermajority, we passed the Affordable Care Act. We made health care available to all Americans, improved access, and lowered costs. The fact of the matter is we are in a very different world today than we were just 2 weeks ago. We are in a world today where women woke up one morning and lost the right to govern their own body and health care. There are trigger laws, which you just talked about in a previous segment, throughout the country that are terrifying for women. Laws that were written in 1849 in Wisconsin, that was before doctors even knew how to wash their hands before surgery, and certainly long before women had the right to vote. I think this election has turned on a dime. It's going to be a very different cycle than what we have seen in the past. And in terms of Democrats holding up to their promises about governing and managing the issues that are important to voters, I'll tell you one thing: return a Democratic majority again after this cycle, and you will see action taken to secure the rights of women to have reproductive health choices available to them.
I mean, this is such a fascinating issue, and I just got back from Mississippi where it's reporting on the abortion issue, and it also goes to show how important local government and local races are in making these decisions. So it'll be interesting to see kind of whether there's a bigger focus on that. But Lauren, I want to ask you about how Republicans are going to be responding, because, I mean, this is something that Republicans have been very organized around for decades. They've been able to turn out their voters on this issue. They've really made the Supreme Court and abortion kind of a rallying cry for years. But now that it's actually overturned, do you think this is going to be something that Republicans are out there campaigning on offensively, or do you think they might be on defense and a little bit concerned perhaps about what Ray was just saying, that this may be a Democratic base motivator?
I think that the answer depends on the district or the state in which a candidate is running. If you're a candidate in a ruby red district or state, I do think that some Republicans are going to campaign on this as a potential victory. Now, that is very different in purple and blue leaning states. And honestly, I do think it's going to be very difficult for Republicans on the campaign trail this fall, because Ray's right. This issue is very important, and women woke up basically having 50 years of progress taken away in a lot of their minds. And so Republicans are no longer going to be able to get away with a position like, I'm personally against abortion, but it's the settled law of the land. That is no longer the case. And Republicans in purple states are going to have to grapple with this issue. And I do think that they could do well to show some empathy to the millions of women who right now are afraid, who are fearful about basic procedures that they may no longer have access to. And they're going to be looking to their elected officials to see what their positions on this issue are, because it is a different time. And I am afraid for some women in the states where access is very restricted, because there are some medical reasons that this might be necessary. And further, I think that the Democrats are in danger a little bit of this backfiring if they go too far. They used to have the message of it was tragic, but sometimes rare. And what we're seeing on the very far left is almost a celebration of the procedure and of the choice. And I think that can backfire with a lot of the suburban moms that the Democrats need to court back to do well this fall. And so I think it's complicated for people on both sides of the aisle, but I don't disagree. It's especially difficult for women, and for women voters in purple states, and candidates are going to have to respond in a way that shows empathy and shows that they're listening. That's really important.
Yeah, really interesting, and especially in those states like Michigan. I'm interested to see how that pans out. Ray, last week, this may have been missed with the decision of Roe, but the president actually signed into law something that was hailed as the most significant piece of gun legislation in 30 years. I mean, that's what we were all covering just last week. It was largely overshadowed by this decision, but is this kind of thing enough to help motivate Democratic base voters, or do you think by the time November comes around, they may have forgotten that this bill was signed?
It's pretty remarkable how news can change on a dime. Look, President Biden campaigned on something that is really significant and not lost on voters, which was he said he would work to bring Republicans and Democrats together to find reasonable solutions to the problems facing our country. And that's exactly what happened when Senator Murphy and Senator Cornyn got together with their colleagues across the aisle on both sides and passed this historic gun legislation for the first time in decades. Look, I will tell you just personally, I worked for a member of Congress whose husband was murdered in a mass shooting and her son was wounded, and she dedicated herself to trying to pass common sense gun legislation for years, and it finally happened now. This is significant. It's a motivator because it shows what happens when Washington works right.
All right. Well, this show is called Red and Blue, and I think we demonstrated in this segment that red and blue can actually talk to each other and find some common ground on some items, as you both did. So, Ray Zaccaro and Lauren Zelt, thank you so much for your time. I know we're going to be talking to you a lot as this midterm season picks up.
Thank you.